During this time of global crisis, we can feel a stirring within ourselves of inner crisis. It can highlight our inner demons, skeletons in the closet, past wounds, and the darker side of our personalities. These are all words for the shadow, the wounded aspect of ourselves that are instinctive, irrational, and prone to psychological projection, in which a perceived personal inferiority is recognized as a perceived moral deficiency in someone else. At times, we experience subtle versions of our shadow. During times of crisis, we can feel consumed and somehow possessed by it. But for the most part, we are completely unconscious of our shadow. From a collective point of view, it can seem as though our world is in crisis because of a lack of consciousness. We turn a blind eye, ignore or bury it deeply within us. Its mere existence evokes emotions of guilt, shame, or fear. So when the reminder of our dark side is triggered, our automatic response is to repress it and lock it away in a tightly packed away box. However, navigating, experiencing, and owning our shadow side is a vital part of our expansion in consciousness, individually and as a collective. Welcome to episode 13, The Collective Shadow, where we will explore the darker aspects of not only ourselves, but also the collective unconscious in order to heal, evolve, and transcend.
I'm Alejandro Salinas. I'm a dream worker, a death worker, and former massage therapist here in Chicago.
Unless you do virtual massage, which I don't know. Maybe you can do that. My name is Tree Carr, and I'm an author, a dreaming guide, a death doula, and a tarot reader in the UK. I'm back in the UK.
Hey.
And I'm Jennifer Claroscura, and I'm a dream guide in New York, still in New York.
Welcome to episode number 13 of The Dream Freaks.
Magic number.
13. Oh my God,
Oh
13.
my God.
Lucky number. Good one. Good number to do shadow work part 2.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, totally. It's great to connect.
It feels good. It's been a while. You know, there was a lot going on between everyone and everything that's been happening, and we're finally settled back in. I think we can get to our regular pace of things.
Oh, definitely. Feels good.
So the topic of shadow work and fear and everyone's vivid nightmares has been coming up a lot for everyone I've been talking to, and even a little bit, myself included.
Yeah, I think with this, the lockdown and also the isolation has helped bubble up a lot of things that have been deeply down below the surface for many of us. I think it's because our external worlds have quieted down.
Yeah, we've been 30 days, or for some people are 40 days in, right?
Yeah, it's at least a solid month for most people, I think.
So it's like a whole 2 retreats, 2 silent meditation retreats.
Yeah,
totally.
And what's been coming up a lot for me, especially with the work that I've been doing facilitating death cafes, is a lot of discussion around grief. And the grief of losing jobs, the grief of losing normalcy, the grief of losing security, the grief of losing loved ones, which more and more people are the things that get much closer. We start moving away from those 6 degrees of separation, and it feels like it's coming and affecting individuals much more often.
Yeah, it's hitting very close to home now, and even that we're all in different countries or whatnot. It's something that we're all collectively experiencing, and a lot of us are now. Yeah, it's happening within our circle of friends, and we are seeing deaths.
Yeah, and I think honestly, regardless of whether or not any of the conspiracies are real or whatever it is, like at the end of the day, it's undeniable that people are definitely dying, and that people have definitely lost a lot of comfort and security and jobs. Really important to facilitate that process, I think. Yeah, so there's different stages of grief, which a lot of people are familiar with. Anger is one of them, denial, bargaining, sadness, and there's acceptance. And there was a sixth one that recently been added by David Kessler, who worked with Elizabeth Ross, which is meaning. And that's not to say that things happen
Mm.
for a reason. That's like a terrible thing to say to people. And that's often uh, received pretty negatively, but that we make sense out of what has happened to us. And we put whatever experience we've been going through into a larger context within the narrative of our lives.
Yeah, and I think with meaning, it helps a lot when you're working with your dreams to help achieve meaning through the grieving process. And this is also really advantageous when you're doing shadow work, working with your dreams. And I know a lot of people are having a lot of anxious dreams, strange, weird, nightmarish dreams right now, too, during this whole experience. And working through your dreams in a shadow sense can be very, very helpful, assembling the pieces and integrating all the grief that we are collectively experiencing.
What our day to day looks like is a little different now. So, what we feel has also changed. We're feeling so much in one day, and we're not distracted by, friends and family unless you're stuck with them. But I feel like the dream is probably working hard to compensate and also work through it with its own type of mind. So yeah, I think our mental mechanisms, subconscious and conscious, are going through challenges
Hmm.
dealing with how to communicate within themselves as well. This is new territory for all.
Absolutely. And something I've been thinking about, especially in the last episode, I had people reach out and say that it's not always easy for them to do the shadow work in their dreams because they're often not getting lucid. And that you don't really need to get lucid to do this kind of shadow work. And I've been viewing ritual as a form
Mm.
of waking dream. And in
Yeah.
ritual, we're still using metaphors, we're still using this living poetry to create a symbolic substitute, in a way, for the dream of the night that might be harder to access for some people.
Yeah, that's really good. It's almost a way of bridging things over into your waking life. The ritual is very powerful, and I also find it's a very creative process and very cathartic. And we can all approach ritual in different ways, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you are following any type of tenets or like a belief system. You can do this innately on your own. Like I know Ale, you did, right? You had some objects that felt very special to you, or held some
Yeah.
sort of symbolism, and you made a really beautiful ritual in your own way, without it being linked to any kind of religion or tradition. You made your own thing in a very creative way, and it was really quite powerful, wasn't it? It was so amazing.
Yeah, one of my first yoga teachers, Gabriel Halpern, he's in Chicago here, and he does have a YouTube channel that I recommend people check out. Just Gabriel Halpern, and he said a long time ago when I was first doing yoga that artists are the ritual makers of society,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
and we're all artists. We're all like just by the act of existing, we take part in this collective creation of our external environment. And yeah, I was really triggered. I mean, I've been going through a lot of grief personally. I had a friend who died like a week or two into quarantine, and that
Mhm.
was really difficult. And I wrote a song in her honor
Yeah.
that was super healing. And a friend of mine shared with me a meme that was really triggering over a relationship that had ended at the beginning of the year. And I knew that I had to dive into those emotions, and I didn't want to immediately, but I just couldn't help it. And one, like allowing myself that space and time to just accept those feelings, even though I wasn't anticipating them, and to just cry it out. I
Mm.
cried a lot, and then I did. I held like a vigil for the loss of that relationship and for the loss of a lot of things I've been feeling, and collected different objects, that little trinkets that I'd collected from our time together, and I left them in my living room. I made a little altar. I lit a candle. I kept lighting candles for a couple of days, a couple of nights, and I took one of those stones to my brother, who is deceased. He's been deceased my whole life before I was born, and everything else that fit within this coffin that she also gave me. On the new moon,
Yeah.
I went to the river and I dropped it in, offered it rather, I would say, offered these objects to the river to sort of wash, carry away. And it was
Beautiful.
really, really powerful. And I did, the day or two after that, I was feeling a lot better.
Yeah.
And it did feel like some of the dreams that I've had with other exes that I've had just over time, this is kind of taking that dream, that shadow work into your own hands.
Yeah. Absolutely. In a really powerful way. When we bridge things over that way in a tangible way in our 3D space, there's something about it that helps process, helps the integration of the experience. And I'm really happy to hear that that shifted things for you, Ale, that you're able to feel that shift. Um,
But
it's
also,
so helpful.
people sometimes aren't ready to let go, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there comes a moment when you're ready. And I feel like that's when it's most effective. That's why
Mhm.
sometimes you have to do something more than once.
Yeah.
Um, I find that in the past, sometimes it's been like that one time that I did that visualization or integration. And then sometimes it's been like a few evolutionary ritual or visualizations that I've had to do.
Yeah.
Some probably I'm still doing.
Yeah.
Um, but each time it's different. So I guess it depends. Like when you really come to the realization that you're on your way. So maybe sometimes don't get too upset if something is not working, or if you feel like you're still triggered or stuck. It might require you to revisit it until you get that right moment when it clicks.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's really great you brought that up because I think a lot of people feel like maybe it should be a one shot deal and it's just sort of like take the one pill and you're fine. But many times it's a process, and grieving is a process too. So it's good to be able to hold space for yourself and allow yourself the grace and the patience to move through grief, which is many layered. As Ale had said in the beginning, like there's up to 6 stages of grief, and they come all in different waves and forms and at different times. But to just allow yourself the patience, so don't feel so tough on yourself if you do a little ritual and you're like, I still feel bad. It's like
Yeah.
be gentle with yourself. So it's
I've
good to do
been
that.
I've been working a lot with the Toltec traditions of dreaming and healing. And something Sergio Magana says in a lot of the exercises, I mean, all of the exercises, says you have to do more than once. And often it's
Mm,
like 4 times at least for this to be effective. And it doesn't, not that you have to do the same ritual 4 times, but I think it is a testament to the process and kind of dedication and the willingness to continually show up in different forms
absolutely.
for that
Hmm.
process. And recently, I've been working with and learning about one of the ancient Aztec rain deities named Tlaloc. And this was I had never had like ancestral like downloads or visions or journeys in this type of meditation, but it was really powerful. I just got the sort of insight or perspective that it wasn't necessarily about the blood that was being shed, and kind of speaking to the violence, the anger that can come
Mm.
up out of this grief, but that just offering our own tears, and that those tears shouldn't be forced or pressured, because if we view water as the blood of life,
Mhm.
water and blood are very connected symbolically for me, and that water and blood, especially in our own bodies, if the blood is blocked or if the blood is pressured or forced, that causes illness. And that
Mm.
these things need to flow freely and unhindered, and that we can do the best we can to open up those channels, open up those rivers, to allow them to flow, because the water will go where it needs to go. And the same with your tears, this grief, you let them enter into you. And if you deny yourself that grief, or any part of that grief, or any part of your own emotions, even your fear, which is something I want to talk to you about, you're denying a part of your own psyche,
Mm.
which also creates a lot more tension and adds grief on top of grief.
Yeah.
I just want to say that it's not easy for everyone to cry
Yeah.
like maybe I do. It's easy for me. But I know people that it's not easy for them, and it's not because they're not uh, feeling it, but I've realized that the people who don't cry or the ones that they actually find other ways, like music, release of emotions, because I've noticed that there's a lot of people that just crying is not their thing. It's not anything.
And that's fine. Yeah, that's totally
Yeah,
fine.
but
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, I understand like some people, but as long as they're doing something, expressing it in some way, or the ritual is a great way. If you're not a crier, processing through what Alejandro was saying. For me, it's not about rituals with my hands too much. I like visualizations. That's my thing. My mind is the place that I process things through visualizations. I journey to my past. I journey to the moments where I had trauma or wherever I'm triggered. I realize when did I get that feeling? When did that
Yeah.
feeling start in my life? And I journey there, and I talk to myself in my mind, and process it, integrate it, or just speak and hug. I sometimes don't even, back when I didn't even know what integration was, all I did was just go back to that place and instinctively just talk to myself, hug myself, and just tell myself that it's going to be okay,
Yeah.
that I was going to be fine. And that helped me through a few traumas, to the point where I don't have them anymore. I can't even call them traumas anymore. They're just like
Mm.
a past life memory now. I don't have that connection to it anymore. So it worked, whether it was like my own, you know, um, innocent attempt to go back and just say something kind.
Yeah. That's very powerful. And so how have you both been navigating shadow work through dreams through the lockdown period? Have you had anything like a theme in particular? Has there been like shadow themes, or how have you been
Yeah,
working with them?
definitely shadow themes for sure. I had recently a dream where I'm looking at my reflection and my hair is going up in the air, and I'm thinking, how beautiful does that look? And I wanted to capture it. And as soon as I started to try to capture it, my reflection turned into Maleficent.
Mm.
And I was wondering what that was about, and it triggered me a little bit. I was a little offended, which is for me a huge shadow work. And I make jokes about it, that's me homeschooling and things like that. But underneath, I take it deeper, In a world right now where people are throwing the words evil, and where I'm doing a lot of shadow work and darkness, all these things, I realize I have yet to integrate a deeper part of my darkness.
Mm.
And I was looking online, like, where does this Maleficent where does it come from? Is it what fairy tale? Just to look into it. And the first thing that came up was a video called "Once Upon a Dream." It's the theme for the movie, I guess. And the lyrics are like, "I know you. I walked with you once upon a dream." And I felt like that my own darkness, or what I would probably, I don't even use the word evil, but I was thinking if I did use that word, because I don't like to use that word. I was like, why don't I like to use that word? I really went even deeper than just hiding behind, I don't use that word. And really try to see like where my real true darkness that is mirrored out in the world is hiding, and why isn't she with me? Why is she in a mirror looking at me like, hey, tempting me to dive even deeper. So yeah, that for me has been just a series. This was just like recently, but I've been having dreams sort of like this that are
Yeah.
triggery. So I've
And
been working
hair
through them.
is such a strong symbol of magical power,
Hmm.
especially with witches. So having the hair coming up like that.
And even in the Native American tradition, I'm not sure if it's a specific tradition, but I've heard that they grow their hair as these sort of and I might be butchering this, I'm sorry, but like these like antenna, so to speak,
Yeah.
that
For
reach the
intuition.
heavens. And like Samson and his like power
Yeah, Samson. Yeah,
from
there's
the
a lot of
hair.
links. And the Sikh religion, the men grow their hair very, very long and keep that up in their turban. And a lot of traditions in a lot of societies with hair being very linked to intuition and sensitivities. And yeah, like an antennae, like a psychic antennae.
And Tree knows that I have chosen, like, I don't like to get too psychic. I kind of like have had the option for my mediumship skills to open, and I'm always like, no, thanks. I don't want to deal with, I keep it in dreams. I don't like to deal with afterlife coming at me and waking life like my sister. Tree is having a lot of that happening, right? Psychopomp, you call it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's also triggery. Like I'm always like, no. So
Mm.
I'm also looking into why I have these feelings of, putting my hand up, like, stop. No, those moments when I'm
Maybe
just, yeah, exactly. So
maybe you've done a lot of work in that before and you're just like, I need a break this time around.
yes, but I'm also looking at why it's showing up, like, like Alejandro was saying, the hair, the psychic, these things
Yeah.
are probably all tied in with maybe it was a part of my life, and maybe it was not used in a good way, and I have a thing against it. I don't know. Like, I have to really dive in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And even, I've been thinking that, Maleficent is still a very powerful witch. And if we remove the labels of like good and evil, which can be very decisive, which are just archetypes that exist in all of us, we need both and to
Yeah, there was a
integrate
lot of
both.
power in that image. Yeah, it's true.
I've been thinking of the Jung quote where he says, "A tree can only grow to heaven whose roots have reached down to hell."
Yeah.
And in between the heaven and hell is where we find ourselves on earth. But we need that deep, deep dive to really expand and grow.
Mhm.
And I always say, is the size of your darkness is the size of your light. So
Yeah.
it's something that's come up. It's come up, and I'm open to the dream work, because this is how I process things. So if you're a dreamer listening to the Dream Freaks, so, your dreams are very important right now, because that's how
Yeah.
you obviously attuned to it for some. You're called to it in some way.
Yeah. Tree, have you been having a lot of like psychopomp experiences lately?
Yeah, I have. Since the lockdown, I've been having a lot of, I've been working a lot of my dreams with other people. So a
Can we
lot of
also
my,
refresh on what psychopomp work is for people who may not be new or who may be new?
yeah, so the role of a psychopomp is a bit of an ancient one. It goes back to ancient Egypt. A psychopomp is almost as like a person that helps usher the dead that are caught between worlds. I know that sounds so science fiction and far out, but this has been around. It's not a Netflix series, believe me. It's like been around for
Maybe
ancient
coming
times,
soon.
maybe coming soon. But it's very shamanistic as well. But I mean, you see it in a lot of different cultures and modules. I think it's just a very human thing. And so a psychopomp usually is in the realms of mediumship as well, where you're able to, I guess, converse with those who've passed, but not passed properly, and they are somehow caught within the earth plane, and are able to just kind of just be a little bit of a guide. So I just sort of see it as almost like a traffic warden a bit. You're like, hey, I can see you there. You need to go over there. You're just kind of like if that makes sense, you're a person who just says,
Yeah.
hey, look, see over there, those are your ancestors. So go meet them. But a lot of the times you're communing with the person or soul or spirit or essence, however you want, consciousness, however you want to call it. A lot of times they don't even realize that they've passed. So a lot of the times they are confused and in almost like a liminal space, like an astral space, and or a dream that feels never ending, and it's very confusing. So yeah, the role of the psychopomp also is to say, hey, it's okay, you're dead, and there are your ancestors there. You can reunite. So that's another way so that a psychopomp works. And
Mine began in astral. It didn't like it isn't something that came to me like in waking life through like books or studying it. It was more
Yeah.
like my guides coming, pulling me by the ear and being like, time to clean, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of knew what to do in that realm, and it took me years to understand what I was actually doing. And then I kind of like applied it a little bit in my waking reality, but like I said, I always liked to keep that separate. And
Yeah.
yeah, I have this thing where I'm like, okay, not that here, not now.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how you fall into these things intuitively. And when I was a young woman, I fell into it intuitively and dare never talk about it because it just seems like you're a whacked out, cuckoo, crazy lady. And so as I evolved and grew as a person and realized that actually this is a role, and what you've been doing is, it's been around for a long time. And then I felt a little bit more confident, like, coming out and actually saying, oh yes, I know that stuff. And so
Coming out
lately
the
in
broom
dreams,
closet.
yeah, yeah, totally coming out of the broom closet. So yeah, lately my dreams since the lockdown have all been very psychopomp orientated, and also just helping a lot of people in the dream state. So I've been getting a lot of new clients, and through the work that I do, mostly with mediumship and tarot reading. And I've been having a lot of lucid dreams that involve the clients that I've been working with. So in the dreams, I'm helping them with their shadow work, doing like kind of healings in the dreams on them, which has been phenomenal because I had one the other night where one new client, I was doing like a kind of like a healing on this person, and I was removing all this fear-based energy that was coming out of their side of their lower abdomen, and they were like little like creatures coming out, like little shadow entity type
Oh.
things. And they're coming out, and in my dreams I speak a dream language, and I was speaking it, and there was a lot going on with this person. They kept going, whoa, what's happening to me? Oh my, just kind of exclaiming a bit. And there was some commentary. Anyway, when I got in touch with my client the next morning, he confirmed a lot of stuff that I was in fact experienced in the dream, in that lucid dream with him. One particular, he had many years ago an astral experience where he came up upon an entity in the astral, and it attacked him on that side of his body, and he feels like that it instilled fear in him, and basically he hasn't been able to go astral since that. It really put him off and made him really afraid. So there was some interesting like feedback that I got from him which really made it feel a lot more powerful, the experience. And
Definitely.
yeah, so it feels, I've been doing my own shadow work too in my dreams, and I feel like I've been helping others in the dream state as well. Just whenever I dream of someone, I'll get in touch and be like, I had this in a dream. And then they're like, hey, that I'm going through that. And so it's been a wonderful time for connecting to the collective. I feel like it's been very strong, and I feel I'm learning a lot, like, and I get so blown away by all of this. I'm like, fuck, this is like, it's amazing. Like just connecting with others in the dream state and helping them in some kind of way. I was just like, life's really interesting and incredible and amazing. And there's just so much potential.
Even in our or I guess you could say our peer space, the other lucid dreamers, dream workers, we've all come together and started the lucid hive. Is that the lucid
Yeah.
The
hive?
Lucid
And
Hive.
it's
Go
kind of
follow the Lucid Hive on Instagram and Facebook, y'all.
and it's kind of like that thing, like we're working together. It's another part of integration. It's how that has manifested into our lives, because usually dreamers are like
Yeah.
lone wolf workers, and this is for the first
Yes.
time I've seen such a huge group just come together in this way for one purpose, and that's to come united, knowing that we all come from different areas, and we don't have to believe the other. Some are atheists, some believe in God, some believe in the universe. It's like all these different walks of life, and we're all just saying, you know what, we respect one another, and we're here to keep creating content, no matter whose belief is what. And I think that's a huge statement to the world of lucid
Yeah.
dreaming and dream work.
Yeah, I have a ton of gratitude for Reese Jones, who many people have probably heard of on YouTube. He's been at this for a long time, who brought everyone together. And a quote, one of my favorite quotes about dreaming from Robert Wagner, he says, no dreamer controls the dream in the same way that no sailor controls the dream, or no sailor controls the sea. But that, we don't have to be alone on our boats. We can assemble a crew to help navigate these waters. And we do say, we're all in the same boat. We're in this together.
Mm.
And really
Yeah.
connecting and finding your crew, Yar.
And it requires putting your ego aside, because not everybody believes in what everybody believes in. And sometimes dream work, like dream interpretation, people don't mesh with lucid dream, or astral projection with lucid dream. It's like somehow here, even with astral projection, we're all joining hands, so to speak, and being like, okay, let's do this together. We all hold a piece of the puzzle. We recognizing that everybody has a piece. And that's the important part.
And like being on this boat, like we're in some very metaphorical turbulent waters as a society right now. And you can argue and we can bicker about whether or not the storm is coming, or it's going to hit, or that it's already hitting, or that people are like hiding under and not hearing the like torrential downpour that's already happening. That when you're on a boat and when you do have people on your team, you can more effectively look out for one another. If you're not feeling up for taking to the mast, someone else can take up that role for a moment to relieve you of those duties for a bit. When a friend can hold space for you and support you when you don't feel like you can get anything done, but that that will pass, so that when you do feel better, you can proceed again and offer that same support, companionship to everyone else, if you have the capacity for it, which is nice. Community has been so important during this time.
Yeah, because everybody has a role. Everybody is good at something, is unique, natural abilities toward something in the community. And the beauty is sometimes just finding out what that is, right? And you can only know that if you begin to open up to group, to community.
Which is like, we've been talking a lot about these darker shadows, but we have the golden shadows, which is the parts of ourselves that are really wonderful. And I think a lot of people are discovering in quarantine that hey, turns out they're an amazing chef. They can cook really great bread. They can sew really well. They've been playing their music better. They've
Yeah.
been discovering parts of themselves that have been more dormant, and those are coming to life, and they can begin to share these with other people. I do want to talk about fear a bit, because it's been coming up a lot, and I hear a lot of people say that fear is the enemy and that fear is to be avoided. The fear is like the most dangerous mind state that we could be in, and I completely disagree. And in one of our previous episodes, when we talked about love, we talked about the seven or all the different kinds of different types of love. And a friend of mine in the Death Cafe said that they think fear is a lot like that. There's a lot of different kinds of fear. And we were
Yeah.
exploring this, and someone else mentioned that they like to view fear in two different ways, where one is very intuitive and nurturing, and this type of fear is there innately to help keep you surviving. And this is like a nurturing, gentle fear, the same kind of fear that you get like at the edge of a cliff, because of course, like that could mean you fall and die. Um, and another kind of fear is a more egoic, pressured, sort of like a bully. And this is a kind of fear that may be like, oh, you're not good enough, or no one cares about you.
The threshold of fear, right? Sometimes the biggest fear is fear itself.
Yeah.
And until you sit with the fear and let it like take over you for a second, and until you begin to like find your legs, and you're like, okay, I'm in it. Now what?
Yeah.
And that's happened to me, where I'm like, okay, I'm in it, and then I'm like, okay, so I'm not dying. I'm okay. What can I do here?
Yeah. The Dalai Lama has a really great quote. He says, if there is sufficient reason to fear, then fear is good. The fear creates preventative measures, so that's good. Yet, if there is no basis to fear, then when you meditate analytically, the fear will be reduced. That's the proper way. And that, yes, like there's so often we find ourselves like, am I in immediate danger?
Right.
But also accepting that, of course, like validating your
Right.
fear. Of course, you're afraid. Validating that fear gives you power and control over the situation. It allows me to take the proper steps that I need to take to mitigate whatever threat that may be real, be it
Yeah.
real
You
or
can
not.
start a dialogue with your fear even. That's helped me. Like I immediately start to have a dialogue, like, okay, what is up? Like what am I not what do you suggest I do? What are you representing right now? What am I not seeing? And it actually has helped me a lot, because when I'm in fear to that degree, I think that I start to get some kind of like strange instinct come up. It's almost like I'm in a magical place, I guess. Sounds strange, but I'm open, to that kind of dialogue to occur. And whether it's my imagination or my imagination started it, it doesn't matter, because ultimately I do get the answers, the right ones. So,
Yeah, just like in the dream, in dreams, it doesn't matter if those dreams are quote unquote real or not. The experiences of them, the emotions we feel physiologically, psychologically, are very real and valid.
Yeah,
And the same with the
absolutely.
dream, we develop a relationship to these things. They're not, we don't demonize our emotions. That's just trouble. But develop a relationship with. It's not the fear itself, it's your relationship to the fear or the anger or the grief, whatever it may be.
it's like a nightmare, right? Everything is your ally, really. It's working for you, not against you. And with that mentality, because that's a mentality you have to adapt. Once you adapt that mentality, it's different. Things change, and it's not as hard, or not hard, but it's not an obstacle that's going to stay there, because that's what allows me to work through it.
On a collective level, though, fear can reach a spectrum. Fear can reach a spectrum where it's completely off kilter, and we're looking at the realms of delusion, paranoia,
Yeah.
and there's a
Conspiracy
lot of that.
theories.
Yeah, there's a lot of that right now, and a lot of people getting swept away, where
Jeez.
they're looking through the lenses of reality through, extreme delusion,
Yeah,
basically.
and that's, as dreamers, we perform reality checks. And it's so important to discern the difference between our own subjective experiences and the objective observations that we're making around us. And certainly some things are very valid, but other things are not. And differentiating that is becoming increasingly difficult in the online
Absolutely.
culture that we've been around.
Like, can you actually do reality check on a piece of misinformation?
I mean, absolutely. But again, it takes a lot of even, reality checks can fail in the dream. You might
Yeah.
say, I'm going to pinch myself, and you're like, ow, that still hurt, but you're still in the dream. And the more we practice and the more we develop reality checks that are more effective for us, and the more we get familiar with these, the better we can differentiate
For,
what there is. Yeah, that a lot of things can certainly have dangerous consequences, especially a lot of the misinformation. We've definitely been seeing in America for years and years now the dangers of kind of downplaying the truth and of gaslighting. Um, and that, like being okay not knowing and being okay saying, I don't actually know enough about this to have an opinion.
Well, it's absolutely. I really do think a lot of conspiracy theories is rooted in like extreme egoism, where people feel like they want to be the holders of the keys of the truth of information. And the key is none of us really knows what's going on. We are literally flying through space on a ball of chaos that we're trying to, say that we know what the hell's going on, but do any of us? So that is what gives me a red flag straight away when someone says, I am the holder of the truth and follow me, and this is the way to the truth. And all, yeah, and then all of y'all who disagree, like, oh, you're so that you're pitied, and you're full of, I don't know. It gets really mind twisty, right? That's why I think there's a lot of this really strange gaslighting, ego gaslighting, strange narcissistic vibes going on with some people with their what they're peddling right now. And for me, if it's not rooted in love, and it's not for the greater collective, the well-being of the planet and of humanity, if there's teams, oh, there's us versus them, we're the truth and you're the not truth, I'm highly suspicious of it.
that's very
I'm highly
religion-like, right?
suspicious of
Like very, or
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like the
yeah,
rapture, the end of the world, or the heaven and hell. I'm gonna
Oh,
transcend
yeah.
absolutely.
new earth,
Or even
old
like
earth. Yeah.
any
There's
language,
evil.
militant language, like this war that you're fighting,
Yeah,
is
evil.
super divisive. Yeah, and that's
Evil,
not it.
war, and the chosen people, and the awakening, and the awakened ones, and like all this wording is very uh, gives me red flags, because it just seems like a new packaged version of the doomsdayer people of the 1980s and 90s of
Yeah.
evangelical Christianity. So,
Yes.
but now it's what is the New Age movement with aliens thrown in. So to me, it's the same. It's the same
To
vibes,
me
and
too. That's the same exact vibe.
and
And
if and it's a vibe of fear, and it's a vibe also of us and them, and we're the chosen ones, and you're worthless, and that's yeah, just not good. It's just going to cause more strife, more war.
yeah, I think sometimes conspiracies can give people comfort to sort of deny or avoid the fears that they're having. It gives them a greater sense of control of a situation that they really have
Yeah,
no control
exactly.
over ultimately. And that can be challenging to break
We don't have,
through,
yeah,
especially when
exactly.
that seems like the conspiracy still feels like it is for the benefit of humanity, whatever it may
Yeah, but that's a
be.
crazy obsession when you get obsessed that everybody has to hear your theory, you know, that's
And if you're not hearing it, you are, you
on the other
know,
side,
that's
on
it.
the other team.
You're out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be no teams
Yeah.
Yeah.
ultimately, right? A perfect world would be there are no teams. There is no
Yeah.
divide
We're
in
all a
gender. There's
team.
no
We're all
divide
one
of
team. Yeah.
race. That's right. So
I've been thinking a lot about the way, especially in America, is sort of obsessed with this rugged individualism and the sentiment of thinking for yourself, and how we can shift that thinking for yourself to thinking with each other.
yeah.
And that feels more wholesome. Even people we disagree with, like, but
Hmm.
and not in a Facebook comment thread. Those are rarely ever productive. But engaging with someone who has an opposing belief without attacking, but of understanding where they're coming from, and why they're believing the things they do, and to what ends they hope. And sometimes, we all ultimately want the same things, and we can work together to come to new, more nuanced, more complex, less divisive understandings of these situations.
So now Tree is going to read us. Tree's going to pull a card.
Okay,
All right.
let me feel into them right here.
Yeah, let's jump into some tarot.
This is for the collective. Haha, I've pulled the Empress card, and I keep pulling this card during the lockdown. So the Empress card, it's the card of Mother Nature herself, a really big prompt to reconnect with nature, but also just to reevaluate our attitudes towards nature and to the planet and how we are treating our planet. And everything from the environment to our views of planet consciousness. Also, this is a very healing card too, the Empress. So nature bringing back more balance and healing into our lives just by reconnecting with nature. And also it's the card of creativity and birthing new ideas, and the card of rebirth. So birthing a new era. I mean, we could do that. We could try to set the record straight and get this right moving forward. If we could just put down our egos a little bit and work together collectively, like you're saying, Ale. Why with this ideology of everything's a individualistic solo pursuit of competitiveness? So the Empress is, this all-encompassing planet, Gaia, consciousness. But also really great with the Empress card too, connecting with beauty, connecting with our own femininity. We all hold a feminine aspect within ourselves, and creating things like beautiful little creations at home. It could be from anything from doing a painting to writing a few words down, some poetry. Getting creative in some kind of way is a very healing act as well with the Empress.
Yeah, I think a lot about like what can be nurtured and how we can nurture ourselves, how we can nurture other people, and the
Mm.
way that mutual aid has become really apparent and really strong within communities I'm in, that I've witnessed from other communities. Just like, like the collective helping each other, nurturing the planet,
Yeah,
nurturing
definitely.
ourselves as best we can.
Another thing with the Empress, this COVID thing, it's part of a worldwide planetary experience right now. And it is coming from nature effectively, although some conspiracies would say it came from a lab. But regardless, it is it's
Regardless.
having an impact on the world. The world has stopped. Nature is actually sort of coming back. I mean, we've seen cleared up skies from smoggy regions and animals coming back into the cities, and phenomenal how quickly nature bounces back after humans have have been removed from the scene, so to speak. Just does make you feel humbled in a way that we live in such a living world that will carry on even if we're not here. We should revere that, and we should honor this amazing planet that we live on. Another thing to say.
I feel
Oh,
like the our like in this like quarantine, we've come to realize also how our dreams can help facilitate a thing like quarantine, because they're a place where we go, where we can interact with one another regardless of what's happening in physical waking
yeah,
reality. And it's kind of like the balance that is needed, and we have that in us. We have that ability to balance ourselves with our dreams. Our dreams can help us work through the imbalances, whatever we feel is, you know, painful on the
yeah.
outside.
So, how can the Emperor's card help us right now in the lockdown and also with our dreams? I think that I know a lot of us can't really get out. Some of us live in cities, so we can't access nature on our daily exercise or have a garden. But if you are able to, even in your meditations, just connect with nature, just, even visualizations, go to your favorite nature spot in your mind's eye through your meditations, or perhaps before you go to bed
Yeah.
at night, you can set intents to fly to your favorite mountaintop or your favorite valley or lake or river in your dreams. You can connect with the planet through your dreams and make intents before you fall asleep to do that, to connect and visit and connect with nature in your dreams. So it's very possible, but even in the meditations too. So that's a really nice way of connecting, even though we're in the lockdown. We can't get out.
Doesn't the Empress also represent like pregnancy
Yeah,
sometimes?
birth.
And I think of pregnancy, but pregnancy being something that does happen in the dark, of
Oh,
the
I thought you meant
womb,
in the
and that
bedroom.
you
I was like,
need
I
this.
like the lights on.
No, 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 no. You know, but that we need this darkness for this fetus, this thing to grow, and like in this time where things do seem so dark, we can dream up, we can birth new ideas that will be ready in
Yeah.
time to come to light.
Yeah, amazing. Great incubation period. To start those ideas, get creative, start mapping out some of these ideas for, birthing a project, birthing something post lockdown. Yeah, or during. Yeah, Lale, you're inspiration. You've got so many creative things that you're releasing right now. It's awesome.
Look, I know this is
Love
really
it.
shitty for a lot of people, but I've been low-key thriving here.
It's good. Oh, I love it.
It's what I needed, because again,
So
like
good.
so much of my life has been externally focused, doing other kinds of things, and now that I've been here, I've really occupied my time with other things that I've put to the side that I've neglected. So
It's really
thanks.
good.
Yeah. It's it's still been a roller coaster. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, some good has definitely come out of it. Thank you all so much for listening to another episode of The Dream Freaks. If you would like to support us further, you can follow, review us across all major platforms where podcasts are found. We've just made it to iTunes and Apple Music. You can find us there. You can find any of us on YouTube, and stay tuned for future projects with other lucid dreamers through the Lucid Hive. Give them a follow. And we're also available to support through our Patreon, where we have all kinds of fun rewards at many levels to help us financially keep this project, this podcast, alive and floating at full mast.